Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Andy Berg with the City of Sioux Falls Public Works Department. This morning we invited you out here to discuss what we're doing with our flood control system. Currently we're standing out here on our levee just north of the airport near the weir structure on our diversion channel. This diversion channel handles a majority of the big Sioux flows that come through the city during a flood event. Routes that water around the airport on the east side and then down the spillway and then continues out of town. And then a portion of our flows also go through our diversion dam and around the city as well. Currently we have about 2,000 cubic feet per second going through our diversion dam and the remaining amount going through the diversion channel, as you can see behind us. As we've mentioned in other press briefings, we have a levee patrol that is out on the levee system. We've got it broken into three areas, the east side, the west side, and then the internal loop. Those levee patrols are driving the levee on a 24-hour, two 12-hour shifts, so 24 hours a day they're out patrolling the levee. They're looking for areas where we've got they're looking for areas where we may have seepage or sand boils or any other indication that water may be getting through the levee from the high water on the water side. So as the water stays up high, we'll continue those patrols. When it starts to decrease and it's lower than the ground on the backside, we'll peel those patrols off. This is a portion of the reason we have the bike trail system closed. Obviously, areas of the bike trail are flooded, so we don't want folks on that. But we also want to maintain the safety of those folks as our levee patrols are passing through these areas. They are also measuring down elevations at various bridges throughout the city so that we're able to calibrate that against the gauges that the USGS has around town. It also gives us a good idea of how fast the levels are either rising or lowering as we check those every 6 hours or so. Those levee patrols will continue, like I said, until the water levels have reduced. Then we'll peel those back, and then it'll become more of a levee inspection effort to see what possible damage we may have seen on the levee system that needs to get repaired, if there's any erosion or washouts, anything like that. So far, our levee system has functioned excellently. We have not had any indications of any seepage. Water levels, thankfully, have reduced from what they were predicted earlier last week, so that it is not getting as high as it could have. So we have not had any risk of any overtopping or any record levels on the river. So I think that covers most everything. I'd open it up to questions.
What exactly, how do you check for seepage, or is it just looking with your eyes?
Sure.
Or how do you notice that?
So how do we check for seepage? It's mostly a visual. Our guys will get out and check areas of concern. A lot of times it's just ground looks wet. And then you can take a probe or even your fingers or a shovel, and if you can stick them into that soil, it means it's saturated and water's trying to seep through there. And a sand boil is something that looks kind of like a little mini volcano. It's got a little hole where water is coming up from below ground and bringing with it some sand or soil, and it kind of creates a mound around it. And those are areas where the water has found a pathway either under the levee or through the levee and is starting to weep or seep out onto the land side. They aren't necessarily signs of a failure as much as signs of something where we need to be watching it. We may need to put some sand over it to stabilize it, or for a sand boil, we would put a ring of sandbags around it to make sure that we keep the material from continuing to come through. Because if it keeps bringing soil or sand through, that means it's creating, kind of like a sinkhole in a road. It's creating a void in the levee.
Is the Army Corps of Engineers still assisting the city at all? Are they still in town?
Yes, the Army Corps of Engineers is assisting us right now. They are providing technical expertise for both geotechnical and hydraulic needs. Since this is a federally constructed levee system, the Corps of Engineers provides that assistance to us. They have been here for the past 4 or 5 days and will continue through until those water levels recede below the landside toe.
So they're going around, you said 24/7 right now, 24 hours a day?
Are they going around 24/7? The levee patrols, yes, they are. We have 6 crews, 3 for each 12-hour shift. So they're constantly patrolling the levee 24 hours a day. And then the Corps of Engineers staff are also out assisting that effort as needed to give us some expertise, since they see these kind of flood fights all the time.
So besides the possibility of water seeping in, could the water go over the levee? Is that a concern?
In a flood fight, there is the potential for water to overtop a levee if you get high enough flows. This event has not led to that. Our levee system is designed for a 100-year flood event, plus some freeboard or some extra space above the water level at 100 years before it would overtop. We have not reached those levels this year, so we have no concerns of any levee overtopping.
How do they notice things at night? Do you guys have lights?
So the question was, how do they notice these type of things at night? The units that they're patrolling in have spotlights on them, and then we've also outfitted them with various supplies, flagging to note areas of concern, shovels, flashlights, life jackets, all those different things, so that they're well equipped. If they see an area at night, a lot of times a wet area just looks really dark at night. They're just getting out on that land side and checking that out and then reporting back.
And I know you said they'd be out until water levels recede a little bit. Are we thinking like a couple days, a week?
Sure. How long before the waters recede was the question. The areas that are fed through the diversion channel or Skunk Creek on the south side of town, those are already receding. So we expect that we'll pull the patrols off that area hopefully soon. The area along the diversion channel and then below the spillway that is fed by the Big Sioux River from north of town, the expectation is those water levels won't really start to recede until early next week. So we expect at a minimum probably through this week for those patrols.
Can you just talk briefly about the importance of having a levee, why it's important to have that?
Question was discuss the importance of the levee. The flood control system, the levee system, provides a tremendous value to the city of Sioux Falls. You see what happens to our parks on the south side of town when the river comes up, and our parks will begin to flood around 2,000 cubic feet per second. Before the flood control system was installed, all of this water would be routing around the city like that. And right now we're at 15,000 to 20,000. So it'd be tremendous impacts. And, they built this system back in the 1960s, and it's provided a great way for water to get around the city. The recent work we did back in the early 2010-ish area raised the levees and added some automation to it so that our dams gates can close automatically when levels reach a certain height, so we aren't relying on folks to run out and hand crank gates closed, that type of thing. So it's provided a lot more protection to the folks that live around the levee, and for us to manage it makes it much easier. They've got updated operations and maintenance manuals to allow us to better manage that system and protect everyone that's behind those levees. All right. Well, thank you very much. And